What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another episode of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. It's time for the April 2019 mailbag, where we're going to be answering some of the questions that you guys all submitted for the inbox. So those cues are going to be aid. That makes a lot of sense. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, and joining me, as always, are the usual suspects here, Robert D. Felice.
How you doing today, Tony?
Not too bad. How you doing yourself?
I'm doing pretty good.
And joining us as well, another usual suspect is Callum Wiggins.
Keep your cues away from my eye.
I was just gonna say, well, I don't know what you're a suspect of, but now we're going into darker territories. So, mailbag. If anybody doesn't know how mailbag works, you send in some questions. We pick as many of them as we think that we can realistically answer, or want to answer, or that we haven't answered so many different times in the past, and then we answer them. Yeah, it's pretty simple.
Great.
So we're going to start off with Frankie's questions, and we're going to start with something that is still not clarified for the Superstar Shakeup, which was a 2-night event that spans 2 weeks, so that makes perfect sense, which was that Nikki Cross hasn't really gone anywhere yet. They haven't specified if she's on Raw or SmackDown. So Frankie asks, should we just send should we? Should WWE? Should we do it? I'm in charge. Should WWE send Nikki Cross to NXT UK? And you know what? It wouldn't be the worst decision in the world in my mind, but at the same time, I still think that Monday Night Raw really needs her because, we broke down that Raw really has a struggling women's division right now. And even if she wasn't on Raw, it makes more sense for her to be on SmackDown just to be with her husband, right?
Right, but that's not to say Killian Dane couldn't go over as well, but I actually voted to keep her off of NXT UK because I think she's a character that will thrive through the whole brand of WWE.
I wouldn't put her on NXT UK personally, just because I think she has enough charisma and character and in-ring work to either, at the very least, just go back to NXT, because she's absolutely loved and adored in NXT, so they would happily take her back in a heartbeat. But so yeah, that's appealing to a wider audience than just NXT UK, and it means that she'll still be in the same country at the very least as her husband, for the most part.
Yeah, because they both live in Florida right now, right?
Yeah, so that makes more sense in that regard. And yeah, but realistically, she should be on either Raw or SmackDown because she could actually play quite a valuable role, and she does seem to have a lot of crossover appeal. There seem to be enough people that recognise her from her NXT time that she could become a pretty popular babyface.
It's kind of a demotion too, isn't it? Like, NXT UK is trying to make its way in its own brand, but at the same kind of judgment, anybody that goes from the main roster to NXT UK is going to seem like maybe they did that because they weren't able to hang on the main roster a little bit.
Potentially. They probably would get paid less as well.
Yeah.
Different contracts or whatever. So, I mean, for Alexander Wolf, it made sense because he just didn't really have a lot of brand value in his name, besides just being part of Sanity. And when Sanity goes away, his value kind of diminishes. Whereas Nikki Cross had enough time separate from Sanity that she's built up her own. It's still the same character, but she's built up her own reputation.
Yeah, she's made a name for herself, as opposed to just being the girl in Sanity. Like, Wolf is just one of the lowest of the 3 guys in Sanity. It's always weird to say Insanity.
I don't know. I think it was a waste to call them up and then break them up, but they have a master plan, clearly.
Yeah, I'll believe in that someday. Speaking of NXT UK, he asks if you had to make a mid-card title for that brand, what would you name it? I actually wasn't able to think of anything I really, really liked. And I don't like location-based titles at all, like the North American Championship, the United States Championship, because they don't make any sense because they're not defended just strictly in that regard. So that kind of left it up to, I need to think of a name that's in the UK kind of atmosphere, but then I don't know the colloquialisms and everything, so that was a little bit hard. I Googled a bunch of things and I'm I don't know, Commonwealth, Monarch, just kind of, none of it felt right to me. Do you guys think of anything?
So much like you, I tried to think of British words, and Commonwealth came right to mind, and I said I don't like that. And then I thought, well, what if we just cheaply bring back the title of European title? And I didn't like that either. So then I thought FCW had the Jack Briscoe 15 medals, and I thought maybe they could do something like that, like name something after the Johnny Saint medallion or the William Regal brass knuckles of honor. I don't know. This was a really difficult question. I was actually just looking forward to seeing what Callum would say to this.
I mean, I can try with a few things. I mean, I know like a few colloquialisms. I tried to think of like a few things that the British are well known for, which is heavy drinking and tea and stuff like that. But I thought those were a little contrived. I mean, you could have like the Brexit belt, which can only be defended inside the UK and nowhere else. So you couldn't have like the UK Championship being defended in like Europe or in America or anything like that. No, this one stays in the UK because Brexit means Brexit. And then you could have
like
the
nobody like Walter could win that either, too, because he's not from.
Oh yeah,
you know.
exactly. Yeah, and then it's their job as the champions to try and kick out every foreigner that's in NXT UK. Just make it as British as possible. I think Doug Williams would look good with that belt if they ever signed him. But you have the county championship, because obviously instead of states we have counties in the UK. Whereas like the county that I'm in is Essex, and you could have things like that. So you represent each county that you're part of.
I like that.
Or you could have something like, instead, it doesn't have to be a belt. You could have the crown jewels, which is essentially just like a King of the Ring crown that is passed around between people. Or I was thinking something like, because there's certain culture about the British wrestling it's a very hard hitting strong style one. So you just have like the hard man title, which basically means that you only lose the title once you're knocked out in a match.
That'd be cool.
It's like you win the matches by knockout instead of you win them by a pinfall or submission. I guess submission as well. It'd be more like UFC based, but I'd kind of like the visual of like fake knockouts because they could really do something quite visually appealing with those.
Do you think that British wrestling was known for the round system? Do you think a belt like that could implement the round system from British wrestling?
The round system has never had a good fairing in outside of the UK. So if it is just fully in there, then maybe it could work. But whenever it's tried to be implemented into the US, and even though this is obviously the UK's promotion, it still has a worldwide audience. I don't think the round system works as a visual spectacle. I mean, it could be. I mean, they tried it in with the Grand Championship with Impact Wrestling for a while.
I love that name.
And I think it was. I mean, it wasn't bad. I just think you need to establish like three. You need to establish like three very impartial judges to be for every single match, which I guess is doable. It's not the worst idea in the world, but I kind of like the idea of just having two people beat the shit out of each other over a title. I feel if I had the choice, I'd bring back something like a Hardcore Championship or something on those lines, just because that's just a fun title. And like we've said in the past about championships, if they don't actually have any meaning or any special incentive or reason behind them, like why would you go for this title as opposed to any other title, then it kind of loses all meaning. So you just need something with a gimmick or a certain reason attached to it.
So going back to what I was saying, in Texas they used to have the Brass Knuckles Championship, which is essentially the Hardcore Championship, with the William Regal Association with the UK. You could do a Brass Knuckles Championship that's like a mixture of a tough man, hardcore 24/7 kind of thing. So I actually would be into seeing that.
What's the thing that NWA has where it's like the 10 pounds of gold series or something?
Yeah, that's for their world title.
10 pounds of gold, that's what it is?
That's for their world title.
It would be kind of interesting if they had something like they actually weighed the championship and they called it like however many pounds it is, because pounds, that's got a connection with the whole like monetary side of things. And it's like, say it came out to 10 pounds and call it like the 10 pounds championship, where it's like this is 10 pounds of gold, and that's what we're declaring it, you know?
I
That'd
quite
be cool.
like that. Oh, I quite like that in the sense that it would get progressively lighter as Brexit completely erodes the value of the pound note. And then just 1 week you're just completely gone because it's just like, and that's when you know the country's fucked. So the NXT UK can be a real good indicator for that one.
This is completely unrelated to a certain extent, but there's something just popped in my mind about when it comes to like James Bond film titles. I'm a fan of when they get a little bit more like flowery with it. Like I would prefer a movie to be Quantum of Solace than to be Goldfinger. And I had seen this thing one time that I really hope that they do in the future, which is to call one of those movies By Royal Command. And that made me kind of think like maybe there's some way to work royal in where it doesn't seem like they're just being a little bit too on the nose. But I can't think of a way to do that because you can't have like the Royal Command Championship because then it's like, what are you, the fucking military? Like, you know, royal and regal and all that. Like, it seems like it's connected, but at the same time, that sort of just implies any kind of regality and not necessarily the UK. So that's tough. But I'd rather have something like that, the pounds type thing, or like you said, the hardman title or whatever, than for it to be like the Welsh Championship, because I would just be like, fuck you, you know. Like I hate these location based things. At that point,
It's like,
though, if we did the European Championship, I would think that the United Kingdom title would kind of default to becoming that intercontinental level, you know.
This is true.
yeah, you'd imagine that would be the case. But
And
I
then
think
eventually they have all like the Asian Championship and the South African Championship, and then eventually one person has to rule them all, and then they're the world champion, and then
Thanos.
yeah, merge. Oh man, I'm so pumped for that movie. Yeah, so with anything that we are doing here, by the way, everybody, leave your comment below if you have a suggestion of what you would like to see, like different answers, or you know, you want to chime in about our answers or something like that. Drop a comment, tell us what you think. So, you got any ideas of what championship you would make? I want to hear it. Let's go to Frankie's third question here. What feud in WWE is your favorite of all time? I honestly don't really know. I had a couple in my mind. I think that pretty much most people would maybe go with Austin McMahon, like Frankie suggests. But I used to really like Undertaker Mankind, and Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels is always going to have a special place in my heart. So that's tough. I don't know. You guys have an actual answer for that? Since I am copping out.
Two came to mind, and if you know anything about me, it won't be a surprise. Triple H and Shawn Michaels, and then John Cena and Edge. With Cena and Edge, even though Triple H and Michaels was very important to me, Cena and Edge with, I think, more of my formative years as a fan, and that rivalry always stuck out to me as one that was really good.
There's a few, like I can't say with any real certainty what's my favorite of all time, because I tend to find myself connecting with just wrestlers and the feuds that they have, as opposed to like a feud itself captures my attention. But like the ones I was thinking of more like Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, that's always been high up there just for the pure wrestling quality. In the same way, Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle as well back in the day, because that's like the days that I started watching. I like Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, and Mysterio, Chris Jericho. The two of my favorite ones as well, from like just previous WWE stuff. Eddie Guerrero versus Edge, I think, is very underrated.
Oh my god, yes.
Because that was just like, it's just a pure wrestling, like, let's just have really great matches because creative doesn't have anything for us really. And they had such amazing matches towards the back end of 2002. Triple H Batista, I think, is a really, really good feud just because of how much it got Batista over. And I thought it was a very logically well told story as well. Like, it was the sort of thing that, like, you surrendered Randy Orton's push to get Batista over, but it worked because Batista, well, it was just a very well told story, and Batista carried himself very well during it. So those are the ones that kind of like spring immediately to mind. Obviously, John Cena and Edge is another good one. The Heart Foundation against America is a good one.
And I know this one has been done to death. Actually, a couple that have been done to death that do deserve mentions. Triple H and Rock, and Cena and Orton. And the latter, I'm sure we're all sick of. But I really feel like for a fan who's just getting into it now, let's say if you only know John as kind of like a legend and a part-timer, if you watch those matches, they are very good, and they're one of the few rivalries that they did every match under the sun, and they all made sense. You know, they weren't just like, we're gonna be in Money in the Bank because it's Money in the Bank. You know, they had Hell in a Cells because their feuds called for them. They had an Iron Man match because, you know, they were the two biggest names in the company. So I think that feud deserves a lot of praise as well.
Something else that just popped in my mind from that same type of era that I usually go back to is the triumvirate of Diesel, Shawn Michaels, and Razor Ramon. I loved how they went with like Razor and Shawn turned into Razor and Diesel, turned into Shawn and Diesel, turned to, you know, like that kind of thing. Like that whole thing was really cool.
They did have each other locked up for an entire year, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much a year and a half actually, because it was like leading into 94, going into 96 a little bit. And then actually Shawn and Diesel had their match after he was champion, so yeah. That's really cool. I like that one. This one's funny. Do you guys like chocolate covered pretzels? Guessing Callum doesn't because he doesn't like chocolate. Boo. I'm assuming that is definitely a no, right, Callum?
I mean, what the fuck do you think? And I'm saying that to both Frankie and you guys.
If I'm in the mood, I don't go out of my way for them. But, you know, they're not bad.
I'm not the biggest fan of pretzels, but if you're going to upgrade them by putting chocolate on them, then cool. That's basically my point of view. I very rarely am ever like, man, I want some pretzels. You give me some chocolate covered pretzels? Oh, I can fuck with that.
That's fair.
Who was the craziest teacher you've ever had or the most interesting? I don't know if I want to name any names, but I had this one teacher that he was really cool. I really liked him a lot. I didn't learn a damn thing in his class. I had him for a class called Warfare in America, and we watched Rocky in it. He was that type of a teacher. He was obsessed with cheesesteaks. I could get him sidetracked for nearly the 40-minute period just by asking him a question any random day. So I'd be like, yo, you like scones? And he'd talk for like 20 minutes about scones. And he was really cool. He gave me 99 detentions one day. And it was this thing where he had a wheel on his desk that was called the Wheel of Misfortune. So if you got like in trouble for something, you could spin the wheel, and there was a chance that you could get like your punishment taken away, or you could get what I got, which was like, hey, I got a detention. Do you want to spin the Wheel of Misfortune? And then I got 99 detentions, and I'm like, God damn it, you know. But I didn't have to serve any of them. He was just fucking around with me. I had another teacher who we were in the middle of a history class, and he was just looking outside the window, and he was like outside the window was just like the bus compound, like where all the buses park, and he's like, yeah, one of these days I just want to bring my rifle in and just start shooting up at the sky. We're like, okay, all right, we know what teacher to look out for. You know, there's been some weird ones like that, but you guys got any crazy teacher stories?
So I can't remember his name for the life of me, but in high school, there was a French teacher, and I want you to picture Mrs. Dad, but with shorter hair, and this dude would just constantly go around and just murmur the French word for peanut, which was cacahuète. And like that was just it. If you ever just saw him randomly, that's what he would do. Just we cacahuète, we. That, like, I never got it. Didn't know if that was just something he did the whole school day to put kids on, or if that was just something he was just
like a
weird about
tick.
doing. Yeah. But Yeah, I think that takes the cake for the weirdest teacher I ever had.
I didn't really have any crazy or weird teachers. I had some which were just like fun to be around. They had some fun stories. Like my person who was kind of head of our form, which was like our like home study or stuff, something along those lines. Essentially, he went from the Navy into like working in business and then into teaching. So he had like quite a lot of stories from like the different walks of life that he'd been through before. Like told a lot of submarining stories that he used to be part of when he was in the Navy. Because I think he was in around about the time that like the Falklands Wars were going on and stuff along those sort of lines. So I don't know if he saw like direct action. I can't remember if he told any stories about that sort of thing, but he definitely did a lot of like maneuvers and got involved in a lot of stuff like that. So he was quite interesting. One of my maths teachers was South African, and he was quite like loud and boisterous, and he was very energetic and enthusiastic about maths. So if he could tell that someone wasn't interested, then he wouldn't get like aggressive with them. It would be like a case of like he could kind of tell that they weren't enthusiastic as he was, so he would call them out about it every now and again, and then would just get back on with the lesson and would try and focus his attention on the people that seemed to be interested in learning, and occasionally just go up to these people saying that they're not interested in learning and stuff along those sort of lines. But he was like engaging for me because I was paying attention and actually doing the work. So, but I can't say any of them were particularly like crazy. I think that a lot of the students drove a lot of the teachers crazy at my school. But yeah, nothing major.
Drove him crazy, like, you guys aren't into math.
Well, he was more laid back, so he would just joke around with it. Whereas there were some people that would, probably hit the roof a bit more about in terms of like our year groups. Like the lower years below us were very much like a nightmare to teach, and I know because like I attempted for some reason to go into teaching like very early on after school and stuff like that, and did my work experience at 2 different primary schools, and yeah, that put me off for life.
Yeah, I did the same. I have a teaching degree, and I was like, nope, I'm not going to use that degree.
Yeah, I can't see either one of you doing that for the rest of your life.
I can't deal with stupid people anymore. That's the thing.
I used to be like that, but I used to teach like when I was teaching like a teacher assistant thing, I was teaching younger years, and they're quite and they're stupid in a funny way, in the sense that they're still learning and they're still like inquisitive and they're still curious about stuff. So when they do something stupid, it's more like, oh, you're still learning. Life hasn't like eroded your soul yet. It's like that was a lot more fun and enjoyable. But then if you thought like that and you had to go beyond, okay, so you got to go from primary school to the upper years or high school, whatever, and stuff like that, I was just like, nope, these people are assholes. And I know because
they're all
people
pissy and they've got like hormones and
yeah. And I know because I was one of them, and I was around a lot of those people as well, so I know how bad they'd be, and I don't want to be anywhere near those type of people ever again. So yeah, but like if the urge ever came back to me again, then I probably would go back into like primary school sort of age, because if it feels like, even though the teaching is quote unquote easier, it's very like it plays a very formative part in some of those people's early years, and to be able to be involved in that process and be able to help them through that side of things is good. But then as soon as they become like ragey, then get them out of my sight, really.
Let's move on to another Frankie question here. What's something that people don't worry about but really should? There's so many fucking things.
Wow, I'm surprised you left such an open-ended question like this.
Yeah, this could be an entire episode of the All Talk Show. Like, we could get into stuff like the environment. We could get into how much time people waste just on stupid things. It's something that bugs me a lot, that I know this is not like, the biggest deal in the world, but it's something that I think people should worry about, wasting money. So many people will just be at a cash register and be like, yeah, I'm just going to buy one of these drinks that's right next to me. And it's like a 16-ounce drink for like $2. And you're like, if you walk a couple aisles down, you can go get a 2-liter for cheaper. Or, they stop at like a quick stop type thing. Like if you're on the East Coast, like a Wawa or something. And they'll just grab like, let's buy some stuff here. And it's like, you just spent 20 something bucks for what you could have gotten for like $6 if you would have gone to like a Walmart or whatever. And then people go like, I don't have enough money to pay my bills. And you're like, well, maybe you should worry about how much you're wasting. Like, that's something that gets under my skin. But there are so many things. I mean, people aren't worried about like their health. Knock on wood. Total hypocrite on that. Like,
Yeah.
There's so many different things come to my mind. But again, this could be in a whole episode that I could go on rants. But what did you guys immediately think of?
Well, the environment did come to mind. Global issues, like things that you would normally associate with like political scenes, they only care about during times of the election, and then it seems like the rest of the time they just don't care. Things about like just your fellow man, like there's so many things that they'll buy a shit ton of clothes and they won't care about, there's so many different organizations you could give to help out people. And just, yeah, this could be an entire discussion about how crappy humanity is. So I'll just turn it over to Callum.
I mean, the environment's the main one. The planet's dying. And that's clearly obvious to anyone with a brain. It's unfortunate that so many people seem to be lacking that across the world, and they don't care about it because it's not affecting them right now. I think it's probably the bigger issue is the fact that now we're a society that thrives on instant gratification, and I don't rule myself or anybody else out by that regard. So I think I'm definitely within that camp, but I'm at least conscious enough to recognise it, in the sense that we're people that just are only caring about what's affecting us in the here and now. We're not thinking about the future. We're not thinking about what happened in the past that could adjust the course to what will be happening in the future. I mean, you can just see it nowadays with the election of certain people to certain positions who have policies that are very reminiscent to some very awful people back in the past, but people don't pay attention to history. I mean, another one that I think people are probably sleeping on more than anything else is the growing disparity between the rich and the poor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's clear as day. Like when you hear these stats about the less than 1% of the population has more money than 90% of the population combined, or whatever, or something along those lines. But eventually, those things do cause a reaction. There will be a point in time where the lesser or the less well protected people among us will just say enough's enough. We can lose enough bodies. We'll lose as many bodies as it takes to actually make this change happen. And they're saying there will be. I don't know what the touch paper will be, because that's just, there's so many options for that side of things. But there will be something that causes that sort of revolution, if you want to call it like that, in the future, I believe.
I'm trying to figure out this one quote that I came across a long time ago that I really, really liked. I want to read it correctly. It's by Mencken, H.L. Mencken, Henry Louis Mencken. Every normal man must be tempted at times to spit upon his hands, hoist a black flag, and begin slitting throats. It's like, eventually we're going to have to do that for everything from net neutrality to, you said the disparity between, that gap between, we could go on a whole long thing. Point is, people are horrible.
Yeah, human beings are bad. Watch the documentary series Our Planet on Netflix. We're just not good people.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys listening, you're good people because you're listening.
You're great people.
Except you. You know who I'm talking to.
Yeah, you.
Yeah. Derek.
I hope there isn't someone we've got.
That'd be great if there's a Derek right now. It's just like, wait, what the fuck? What did I do, guys? Nah, you're cool, Derek. As long as your name's spelled Derrick. If it's like Derek, I don't know. Then we might have a talking to.
Oh, I was just going to mention as well that the one thing that people really should be worrying about is the bear that's coming up behind them right now.
Nah, that one's cool. They give hugs.
I'm just saying, the person who has the bear coming behind them knows who he is. So
I feel like if this was a time frame where I had more editing that I felt like doing, it would be perfect for me to be like, well, there's nothing that really should be afraid of, and then somebody would edit something in, like a Bray Wyatt promo, some kind of puppet.
Yeah, get better editing, Tony.
Yeah,
That's the
you know.
Yeah,
You
get
know,
that
people should
intern
worry
already.
about. People should worry about if I actually ever do start editing stuff, because you're gonna find weird shit happening like that. Let's go to another one here. What movie did you see that had the most promise or potential but didn't live up to the major hype? 3 came to my mind immediately, and they're all the third in a franchise. And none of them are The Matrix 3, which I know some people would probably throw in there, but to me, The Matrix was like blown out of proportion to begin with. But Terminator 2 is my favorite movie of all time. And then they announced that there was going to be a third one. And I was like, oh, fuck. Rise of the Machines. This is going to be amazing. And then we got Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines. Fucking awful. Horrible movie. Worst Terminator movie, and that's talking about the one that's spelled Genesis, the way that they spelled that. And there's Batman Forever, which could have been a really cool, like, you're incorporating Robin in the mix now. You've got the Riddler, and you got Two-Face, and for some reason there are gangs that have, like, glow sticks, and there's butt shots, and, like, it's the worst. Actually, Batman and Robin's the worst, but at that point we know with Batman Forever, like, we know what we were getting into, you know? And Spider-Man 3, because I like
Hold on.
Spider-Man.
Oh, well, hold on a minute. That
You're going to
Spider-Man 3
defend
is
Spider-Man
not
3?
bad. I'm going to defend Spider-Man 3. I'm going to defend anything having to do with Tobey Maguire playing Spider-Man. Those movies were not that bad.
I
The
actually...
third one's bad.
I loved the first one. I really loved the second one when it first came out. And retroactively, I don't like it as much anymore. And the third one was just awful. Venom is the best, and they ruined Venom. And Sandman never should have been in that movie. I don't know, that Goblin outfit that they had going on, instead of making him the actual Green Goblin, or just switching it up a little bit and making him the Hobgoblin, because that would have been cool. They've got, like, why is Sandman, spoiler alert, why is Sandman the fucking killer for Uncle Ben? It's just, oh, I hate it. I hate it so much. And that made me dislike Spider-Man 2 even more. I was just like, you're close to this. I don't like you anymore either. That kind of thing. I'm hoping that I don't end up retroactively tomorrow night being like, Avengers Endgame, you know, whatever, but I don't think that will be the case. How you guys thinking with this? Any movie that popped up in your mind that had like, this could be amazing, and then it became, oh, this became garbage?
Well, Justice League popped into my head. Like, in concept, that movie should have been good. By the way, so it should have Suicide Squad and even Batman versus Superman, but none of those movies are good. But I do want to say, Tony, I love Batman Forever due to the nostalgia of that was the first movie I ever saw in the movie theater. So
there is a certain, I'm not, like, Batman Forever is not the worst movie or anything. Like, there's some good parts to it. And it's fun for, like, the campiness of it, too. You can watch Batman Forever and actually have, like, something fun out of it. Like, I mean, Nicole Kidman is awful in it, but that makes it kind of fun, you know?
Oh, I know how bad both that and Batman and Robin is. I would much rather watch both of those movies again than watch the Michael Keaton 2 Batman movies.
Really?
Even though those two movies are better, I have more fun watching Batman and Robin and Batman Forever just because they're so awful. But they're not so awful that it's like a chore to watch. It's awful in the sense of, God, this how'd they let this happen and stuff like that. It's hilarious. It's like cinema sins type thing rather than I'm trying to think of like Batman vs Superman is a movie that I will never put myself through ever again, because that movie is just absolute garbage from start to finish.
I like
fair.
it. I like the ultimate cut. There's like
I'm
75%
not gonna
of
watch
it
it.
I love, and the other 25% I'm like, God damn it, you know?
I mean, that's kind of ruined by the Martha line and stuff like that. So
See, the Martha thing, I think people hate on that more than they should. I think the concept is great. The execution was awful. Because I really like that it's like there's a little bit of a bonding there, but it shouldn't have been, why did you say that name? And like all that kind of shit. Like that was bad.
I mean,
But it could have been done like a very casual way. It could have been like, well, it shouldn't have been Clark saying, "You save Martha," like that kind of thing. And if they would have done that better, I think people wouldn't have been laughing about it. I blame Zack Snyder. Actually, I blame the two of them too. Bad acting.
When in terms of like the actual question, like obviously Batman vs Superman came to mind, so did Suicide Squad, but it has to be a movie that I've watched, and I don't watch many movies anymore, just because I enjoy watching like TV and YouTube videos more, so I devote more of my time to that. But in the one that sprang immediately to mind was Star Wars: The Force Awakens. I know I'm opening a can of worms when I start saying Star Wars immediately, the new trilogy, but I really didn't enjoy The Force Awakens. I thought it was a really it was a rehash of A New Hope with characters that I liked and connected with far less. And that's
you guys know by now how I feel about The Last Jedi. So.
Well, I know that's why I want to try and steer away from the conversation, because we've both spoken this multiple times. You hate The Last Jedi. I prefer The Last Jedi to The Force Awakens and thought that it kind of sandwiched it a little bit, but we don't want to go into like a 30-minute long argument about this side of things again. But yeah, but just for me, just because it was, I don't know whether there's more or less hype for The Force Awakens, but the fact that it was just coming back after so many years on the shelf, after the prequels, which are very much a love or hate experience, then coming back immediately afterwards and bringing back all the people, like a lot of people from the first trilogy as well. I just thought it was a little bit. I mean, I didn't connect with Rey.
Yeah.
Immediately, like I don't like. It was just a case of like I thought. I'm forgetting the names now.
Poe and Finn.
Yeah, For me, Finn was the hero.
He really was.
And it just felt as a disconnect, the fact that he's not the Jedi. Like I know there's real like links to it. I know it's got a weird situation of like I know the Rey character is supposed to be like, oh god, it's him. I don't want to go like along lines of like it's female lead and stuff along those lines. It's not the reason. It's just the reason is that I didn't think that her character was very relatable or very like easy to connect to. Where I thought Finn had a bit more of like the underdog about him, which I appreciated. But the rest of the people like Poe, I completely forgot about for most of the movie. Like
that's because the script did.
Yeah, I know, but that's kind of partly why I like The Last Jedi a bit more, because Poe's a more central character in that one, and you actually get to see a bit more of his personality and trying to step up for himself and take command and take ownership of situations. Whereas the first movie, he's in the first scene or whatever, and then he is taken away for ages and ages, and then it's essentially just Finn's movie until he finds Rey, and then it's still Finn's movie pretty much at that point in time, and then
I told Sony I liked The Last Jedi. I thought it was actually a pretty good movie, and I really agree with a lot of what you just had to say about it. But for some reason, Tony hates that movie.
With a passion. I think they ruined so much.
I genuinely don't. I can definitely see, whenever Tony talks about it, I can definitely see his perspective about it. There's just something about me that, like, there's plenty to hate about The Last Jedi, and I think there's plenty to hate about The Force Awakens as well.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them have redeeming qualities as well, and it just depends on your perspective of whether you're willing to let the redeeming qualities shine out over the really serious plot holes and mismanagement of characters.
Both movies, I'll say this, like, both movies have potential, and if two better filmmakers would have been working with a better story group, they could have been absolutely amazing. But it's kind of like when somebody's making a meal. Like, I don't know, this popped into my mind, but say you've got like a chicken parm sandwich, and you've got a really lean piece of chicken, and it's well seasoned, and it's got a nice crust on it, and the sauce is great, and the cheese is great, and you slap it on fucking white bread. Then you're like, this sandwich sucks. You know what I mean?
Fair.
It's that kind of a thing. But, people think that about the other one movies, too. Like, I'm sure there were people that were coming out of Empire, and then they saw Return of the Jedi, and they've got these little stupid Ewoks, and they're like, what the fuck, And so many people absolutely hate the prequels, so they went into Phantom Menace thinking it was going to be a completely different thing, and they hated that, and,
Yeah, see, I couldn't... If I'd have watched the originals before I'd seen the Phantom Menace and all that stuff, then I definitely would have said those ones were underwhelming, but I'd never seen, like, the prequels of the first Star Wars that I saw.
Oh, you watched
So
them like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
I
or
mean,
did
I
you watch
believe
like
so.
1, 4, 5, 6, 2,
I mean,
3?
I mean, the first one came out. The Phantom Menace came out when I was, what year was that? 99, 2000, something like
99.
that.
99.
99. So I was like 7. So I hadn't. So I'm pretty sure I watched that just like as a kid because, and I hadn't been introduced to the other Star Wars yet. I'm pretty sure someone else in my family was a big Star Wars fan and took me along to watch it, and that's my first interaction with Star Wars. And then I got to learn to love the other ones. I think I'd watched the originals before the Revenge of the Sith had come out. So
That
I'd
makes
gotten
sense.
to grips with them before that point in time. But yeah, I think at least for the Phantom Menace, I probably had no idea what Star Wars was before the first time I'd watched it.
I'm trying to think if there's. Oh, yeah. I just thought of another one. Kingsman: The Golden Circle is another one.
Really? That's
Absolutely
not good?
love. Yeah, it just doesn't work as well. Absolutely love the first Kingsman. I recommend that to so many people. And Kingsman 2 just felt like they copied some of the stuff and didn't do it as well, and took things in the wrong direction. And I was really disappointed in that.
Well, in a similar, I'd put Quantum of Solace in there as well,
Oh, that one. Oof.
just because I really like Casino Royale. I thought
It is
Daniel
good.
Craig
It's
was
one of the better ones.
I thought Daniel Craig was a really good James Bond. I thought Eva Green played a character very well as well. I mean, I'm always a bit one of these contrived people with the sense of like you fall in love in one movie, it sends a little bit. I know it's obviously it's a movie, you can't really just say, oh, they're going to actually fall in love in the second movie or whatever and stuff along those lines, but it comes across a little iffy to me. But besides that sort of thing, Quantum of Solace, just nothing happens.
Quantum
It
of
just feels,
Solace is one of the worst Bond movies.
yeah.
And Casino Royale is one of the best. But I will give them a little bit of leeway because that happened during the writer's strike.
Yeah.
So they kind of like midway through like making that movie, they were like, fuck, we kind of don't have writers anymore. But it still sucks. And they
Yeah.
ruined
Who's
an
your go-to
amazing
Bond?
title.
Like, when you think of actor portraying Bond, who do you think?
I tend to prefer Timothy Dalton. Well,
Mhm.
like nobody ever says that. If I
kinda
could
go,
merge them, though, that's the thing. Like, again, going with the merge. Like, if you can take like the suave attitude of like Pierce Brosnan and like the grittiness of Craig and Dalton, Lazenby sucks. So nobody's gonna pick anything from Lazenby.
I always go with Brosnan.
and I tend to go
That's
with either
my
Brosnan or Craig, just because they're the ones that I was watching when I started watching it. Um, it's not Roger Moore, put it that way.
Roger Moore's too goofy.
Yeah, he's like Dad Bond.
Yeah. And Connery's great, but Connery's great for that era. And Brosnan's the easiest to digest, I think. And Goldeneye's my favorite, so, you know. So I got zero answer on this one. It's what artist or band do you always recommend listening to if somebody asked? I don't like bands. So, yeah. Can't tell you.
Oh, it depends. This is a weird question because it would depend on, what the person is in the mood for. Like, if you're in the mood for a new age band, I would say something like a Dance Gavin Dance or a Day to Remember. But it all depends on who the person is and what they're coming to me for.
I think I'm like Tony in the regard to I like songs as opposed to actual artists and bands. If somebody was to come to me with musical recommendations, then I assume they're interested in like metal or hard rock or something along those lines, because it's the only thing I typically listen to. Outside of like comedy bands like Da Vinci's Notebook and Ninja Sex Party and stuff like that. They're just if you want to listen to just a song and laugh your ass off, then you listen to those ones. But if you want to listen to like metal and stuff like that, I listen to like Skillet, Shinedown, Trust Company, stuff along those lines. I actually listen to quite a lot of Fozzy as well.
Fozzie's fantastic.
Not just to like promote Jericho or anything along those lines, but I actually like quite a lot of Fozzy songs, so I would definitely recommend them.
Spoiler alert for any kind of younger kids. Our next question: when did you find out that the Easter Bunny wasn't real?
Um,
Am I breaking anything for either of you two right now?
well, fuck.
I mean, just as long as a Bug Bunny is still real, then that's fine.
For me, this was weird because I don't think I ever thought that the Easter Bunny was real. Santa Claus, for some reason, Christmas gets a different aura about it. So I can tell you when things stopped with Santa Claus, but I don't ever think I believed, yeah, there's definitely a giant bunny that leaves eggs for us, you know?
Yeah, it is difficult to kind of even like broach the idea that the bunny is real just because it's a giant bunny, whereas
Yeah.
Santa Claus
Yeah.
is human. He's a real he's a person.
I think because it's ironic that Callum brought up Bugs Bunny, but because I had seen enough of a Bugs Bunny to know that's more along the lines of a cartoon, I was pretty secure that the Easter Bunny wasn't real. But Frankie, when did you find out that the Easter Bunny wasn't real?
See, I don't remember which one came first and what sparked it all, but I remember distinctly being in my car and asking my mom about like one of them. It was something like was the Tooth Fairy real or something like that, and she was kind of like trying to hang on with it. I was like 6 years old at the time, and she's like, well, if you believe in it, whatever. And I was like, yeah, but are they like really real? And she kind of just got worn down and went like, no, they're not. And then we went through the whole bucket list of like, well, does that mean that the Easter Bunny's not real? Does that mean that Santa's not real? Like that kind of thing. And so I took care of all that in one day. Just sort of, all right, now we don't have to believe in any of that anymore. And I was like 6 or maybe 7 at the most.
I think we can all agree that as long as pro wrestling is real, we're okay.
Still real to me, damn it.
That's right.
If animals could talk, which one do you think would be the most annoying?
The Easter Bunny.
I got eggs. I thought of a couple. I thought donkeys, because they've got that like kind of voice, and you'd just be like, oh god, shut your fucking mouth. Hyenas, maybe chihuahuas with their little yippy kind of shit. Crickets would be really annoying because they would never shut the fuck up.
I thought that one goat that's the meme from the Taylor Swift music video, because he'd be bragging about it the entire time that he was in a Taylor Swift video and stuff along those lines. I thought like sheep and goats in general, just because I mean their voices their voice fluctuates all the time when they're saying like the bars and stuff like that. It's like going up and down all the time, so their voice would be oscillating constantly. Be ridiculous.
So we all took this as what they would sound like, not assuming they would still have the same interest. It's just that we can understand them, like a dog would be like, "Hey, I found a thing! It's over here. Look, it's a stick." You know?
Yeah, I go by the sense they still have the same brain.
That'd be kind of endearing, though. Like my dog's a complete idiot, and if like, little for anybody who doesn't know, he's a little Yorkie, and if I could be like, "Yo, Herman, what's up?" and if he was just kind of like, "Yeah, I'm just thinking about like staring at this wall for a little bit," I'd be like, "All right, go ahead, bud," like that kind of thing. Like, I don't know, maybe like mosquitoes. That'd be kind of annoying.
I just picture like cats into like in the sense that obviously dogs are very playful and likable. Cats would just be sitting there being very condescending.
Yeah, judgmental, bitchy.
Yeah, it's like, what are you doing, human? Oh, you can't jump up here, human? God, how terrible are you? It's like,
you're gonna wear that out, huh? This kind of things.
And judging by the sort of people that have cats, that could be enough to finish them off. And this comes from someone that owns a cat, so I know where I'm going from.
Are you into sad movies, ones that pull on the heartstrings?
Yeah, I definitely am after that.
Yeah. Sometimes a good sad movie is what you need. You need a punch to the gut.
Yeah, I like a lot of independent films, so a lot of those tend to be very much a punch to the gut. So yeah, definitely.
Can you guys think of any that's like a particular sad movie that makes you just go like, man, I loved that, and I'm crying my eyes out or something?
No. Life's depressing enough. Life is the depressing part of things. Movies should be some sort of escape. It's just I can't think of a good, like, just fully sad movie that I've watched. Like, I've watched Titanic, didn't enjoy that. Watched Schindler's List. It's a
that's
great movie.
fucking sad. Yeah,
It's a great movie, but it's just like it's so depressing. It's like you can only watch it once. I've never thought, yeah, I'm gonna put Schindler's List back on and something along those lines. Like, yeah, I had enough cut marks from the last time or anything on those lines. Like, enough for tears rolling down my eyes, enough tissues by the side of the bed or whatever. It's just like fucking hell. It's like we need. I watch, like, I like dark comedies, like comedies that are depressing but they're still funny, going through that sort of thing. But I can't think of just a wholly sad movie that I would ever go back and watch again after watching it the first time.
I'll tell you a sad movie that I will never watch again: The Deer Hunter.
Oh, I haven't seen Deer Hunter yet.
It's a long movie, and it's just, it really wears on you. And while it's a good movie, I can appreciate that it's a very well done film. It's not something I would recommend because it's just too depressing.
Oh, can I ask this one? Does Silence of the Lambs count as a sad movie?
Nah.
No.
Yeah, I was going to say, because that if it's a horror, because horrors are typically, well, they're sad, but there's still a lot of action and stuff like that going on, or there's a lot of intrigue surrounding it. Like, when you mean sad movies, you're thinking more along the lines of, I don't know, what would you say, Tony? Because you're more of a movie buff than I am anyway. So
I'm looking at my list of movies because I of course keep a list of every movie that I've ever seen that I can think of ranked, and I'm looking at the ones that are listed as like the best ever, and some of them I don't know if you would classify them sad or if they're more on like the bittersweet sort of. They're like things don't work out super well in the end, but it's not like everybody dies and that's the end of it kind of thing. Like Shawshank Redemption is a sad movie. Fucking amazing. Probably the one that I would classify the best movie ever. American Beauty. Real sad. Great movie. Godfather 1 and 2. Those two end with you just being like, fuck. Sorta. And One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is another one. I mean, even to a certain extent, something like The Lion King. Like, it ends on a happier note, but...
Listen, if you cut that film off after the death of Mufasa, you're fucking in tears.
You're wrecked.
Okay, like...
Well, if you made Up the short movie at the start...
Oh my god!
If Up was just that short, that would have won an Oscar.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And probably caused the spike in suicide rate.
Yeah. It's just like, that stuff is... Sometimes it's good, you know? Like, you don't have to have the whole, like, just kind of bouncing around being joyful. Every once in a while, it's good to have a movie that ends where... I don't want to spoil that movie. I'm just going to bring up a different idea. Yeah, like, I'll just go back to American Beauty. Like, if anybody's seen American Beauty, I'm not going to spoil the end of that one, but that is not a happy movie in any regard. Yet I feel better after watching it.
From beginning to end, that movie is very sad.
Yeah. So I would recommend a movie like that if it's like, sometimes you need a sad movie to kind of bring something out of you a little bit. And if you're going for fun, don't watch that. Don't go like, hey, let's go have some fun. Go see a movie. Let's pop on American Beauty. It's not going to be Dumb and Dumber. Last Frankie question here. What word in the English language always makes you laugh? I can't for the life of me think of any, but I know that there has to be some, because there's certain words that I really just absolutely love. Like, I love the word sandwich. Doesn't make me laugh all the time, though.
Onomatopoeia is a stupid word.
I can't think of like words that make me laugh just involuntarily when I say them. I like the word moron. Moron is one of my favourite insults to dish out to people, because it's just the way that it sounds, the connotations. Because you're not just calling them an idiot or stupid; you're saying they're a moron, and it just feels so much more vicious for some reason, and that's why I like it. It's like when you call someone a moron, they know that they're stupid, even if they're so much of a moron they can't tell. But I can't say there's any word that makes me like involuntarily just instantly burst out laughing. If it is, it's probably a swear that I probably shouldn't say.
Let's go to Marco's questions. You are Vince McMahon in an alternate timeline, and you're creating the next face of the company, and you can choose different attributes from different wrestlers and mix them up together. Categories are looks, wrestling moveset, promo, entrance, and gimmick. Who would you go with? I went with the looks of Randy Orton. I think he's got the height and the musculature, so pretty much easy on that one. Moveset of either Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart, leaning more towards Shawn Michaels. Promo skills of Chris Jericho, the entrance of Ric Flair, because that's so simple, and also Brock Zarathustra is just amazing. And the gimmick of Triple H, which was kind of a merger of like what he is sort of now, where it's like the Game and the Cerebral Assassin and the King of Kings all kind of mixed up together. It's just like the guy, kind of. What'd you guys go with?
I start with people from nowadays, and so to go from if I know it's an alternate timeline, but I'll go with like if we're now and it still has the same roster, then I'll probably go based around those. So looks wise, I went either Roman Reigns or EC3. I think it depends really. I think EC3 is a bit more of like a heel punchable face thing, so I probably will go Roman instead. So Roman Reigns looks. Wrestling, I go Aleister Black because it's very like he's got a varied moveset where he can do like obviously the high kicks which look cool, so he can do knockout finishes, but he's also a very good technical wrestler, so you can get that side covered as well, and he's a high flyer as well if he needs to be. Promo Kevin Owens. Don't think there's a better promo out there right now in terms of just like a natural ability to just make something up and speak about it in such a coherent way. Entrance Ricochet. I like the lighting and the effects, and it just looks badass when you just do that sort of thing. And then gimmick a yes movement Daniel Bryan. It's very likable and the crowd get behind it. It's got a nice chant surrounding it, and so it gets the crowd all very much into it. So that would be mine.
So I took people from everywhere. Looks, I also went with Roman Reigns because I think he's a good, upgrade of like the Hulk Hogan look, but he's got that Samoan and The Rock. So there's a lot of like through the years in Roman Reigns' look. Wrestling moveset, I went Chris Jericho. Promo, I said Ric Flair. Entrance, I actually said Bret Hart. And gimmick, I said 2002, 2003 Triple H.
Those are some really good combos. I like them a lot. By the way, if anybody would have known, I would have maybe gone with Johnny Gargano from moveset too. Gargano's up there. I thought this was great. If Jesus Christ was a wrestler, how would you book a heel turn?
So I messaged this to you guys, but I just want to say it out there. This is my favorite question that we've ever gotten. I assume that Marco was really in the Easter spirit when he sent us this question. Really, it'd be no different than turning any mega babyface heel, but just a lot more down to earth and scarily, painfully realistic. Like, look at what I went through, and this is what you've chosen to do with life? No, fuck you people. I'm using everything I have for the absolute worst.
I thought of two things. Kind of that, like, the resurrection leads to kind of like a Sami Zayn, you all abandoned me type of promo. Like, you people are the worst. I died for you. That kind of thing. But then I also thought a lot of people do the whole story. It's like, Jesus Christ is actually like an aspect of God or whatever. And then be like, imagine the ego trip of being like, yeah, I'm God. Like, that alone could be a heel turn.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so I went with there's a story surrounding it as well, a little bit, just because I wanted to go through the process a little bit. So Jesus dies on Good Friday. He's crucified, gets put away into the cave, and then when he comes out, people realise that people was obviously like thrilled for him to come back out, but they noticed something like slightly different about him. Like he starts being a dick to everyone. He starts like punching lepers and kicking beggars around the place and stuff like that, and saying to people they should like drink as much as they possibly want to and covet all their neighbors' oxes and all that other stuff. So it's like people just say, "Wow, I guess he's turned over a new leaf since being like resurrected," and all his disciples go with him. But then a couple of days or whatever later, the real Jesus turns up, and he's resurrected. He's obviously condemning this imposter, and so you have a real Jesus versus fake Jesus, like the Undertaker versus fake Undertaker feud.
Do you need Booker T to tell which one's the difference?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you
And then
need to look in the eyes.
Yeah, yeah. So you just book that feud, and then the true Messiah stands tall, forcing the fake Jesus to reveal himself as CM Punk.
What if we kept it as simple as Jesus turns on Austin and costs him the belt?
Yeah, exactly.
That seems fair.
No, but that's
just have JR in the background going, "Oh God, like no, not this way."
It's him signing
God damn it!
Jesus has signed a pact with the devil himself. Just turns on God. Goes rogue.
He helps Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon beat Shawn Michaels and God.
Yeah, like
you just have Jesus come out one day and say, "I'm the one that gave Roman Reigns his cancer."
no. Like, can you
But
imagine?
that could turn him babyface someday.
I was also the anonymous Raw GM.
I was gonna ask before Callum laid out that wonderful story, what other deity would you have as the babyface to stop heel Jesus? But Callum says Jesus stops Jesus and actually stops CM Punk, and I like that.
Well, it'd be quite an interesting story if, like, Satan turns to the good side, and it's like
double heel turn, double turn kind of thing.
Like in South Park, like the devil's not that bad a guy.
Yeah, he's just misunderstood.
Yeah, I mean, Saddam Hussein is the real devil in South Park. So. But you got like I don't know, maybe Ganesh or something. Just uses all his arms to overpower Jesus. Because Jesus' weak spot is his hands. Because the nails are free.
At least it's not Easter when we're recording this.
Who cares if it was? We're going to offend people anyway.
Yeah, you know. Derek.
Yeah. Fucking Derek.
Hey guys, a question. When did you find out Jesus isn't real?
So I'm in the car with my mom. And I'm like 6. Let's go to Marco's final question here. Rank these from best to worst. You got yogurt, ice cream, soft serve, ice cream, or ice pop bars, I'm assuming popsicles, and milkshakes. I'll do you one better. I added frozen yogurt into mine because there's a difference. So I'm going to go bottom to top. Bottom's the yogurt. Not a yogurt fan. And then popsicles. Not a popsicle fan either. Then we're getting into the good stuff. Frozen yogurt's good. Milkshakes are better. Ice cream is better than that. But the king of all is soft serve. 100%. Custard rules above all.
So since you went from bottom to top, I'll go from bottom to top as well. Yogurt is gross. Ice pops. And then I actually said ice cream, milkshake, soft serve.
Here's where Colin says he doesn't like any of them.
You little faith. Worst to best, yogurt is gross. It's just I can't get over the texture of it. It's just too disgusting. Then milkshake. I'm not a big fan of milk, so I don't. Milkshake's just a slightly better upgrade of that side of things. Then soft serve, then popsicles, then ice cream. Ice cream's the king.
Texture wise.
Yeah, I like the fact that it's just like cold and it's dense enough.
Yeah,
that you actually feel like you're eating it. You feel like you're eating something.
Let's go to Howard here. He says, I don't understand what they're doing with the Japanese characters. Within the past 25 years in WWE, WWF, they've turned them into jokes. Guys like Hakushi when they try to Americanize him, Kenzo Suzuki when he donned the American flag costume, Kai Tai is another one, and also Shinsuke when he did the no-speak English gimmick. What's your take on them? I think it's multiple...
Like foreigners.
Yeah, it's kind of that. It's like little xenophobia, a little laziness of just give them like a Japanese sounding theme and then we're done with it. little ignorance, obviously. There's a disconnect between cultures. There's a language barrier. There's a lot of things.
I loved Kenzo Suzuki Loves America. Those promos, when I was a child, those promos would make me laugh uncontrollably because they were just so ridiculous. I have to assume that this is just like, we want them for the talent because they're so good it's undeniable, but then we got to make them relatable. So let's talk about how they can't speak English, or let's try to Americanize them. You know?
I think it's mainly just a case of not the language barrier is probably the biggest issue in the sense of I'm not saying this is the way that it should be, but in a sense probably in those behind the scenes, if you can't speak English or English isn't your first language, you need to be really gimmicked up for whatever nation that you're representing. So I don't think it's presented to the Japanese stars. It's not just contained to them. It's like British superstars get it, Irish superstars get it. Any other like French got La Resistance and stuff along those sort of lines. They all suffer that sort of thing, but the Japanese one, I guess it feels more of an issue because they usually see these people wrestling in New Japan and stuff like that, and they've had really good gimmicks in those areas, and they were having terrific matches, especially someone like Shinsuke Nakamura. So it feels a bit more stilted when they come to WWE, and the disconnect that seems to always be there with Japanese stars just still remains. I mean, I always go back to something that Vince Russo said in an interview before he took over WCW, where he says that I'm an American. I'm not like quoting this word for word, but it goes along the lines of I'm an American fan, and so I don't want to see the Hispanic or Japanese people win. I want to see the Americans win because I'm an American. And obviously Vince Russo's a dick and an idiot and should never be trusted. But I think there's still an argument that sort of culture exists among a lot of WWE or just wrestling fans in general in North America, that they just don't connect as well as with either like non-American superstars or not non-North American, because Canadians usually are fine as well, but there seems to be just this real disconnect still. That I hope is eroding due to the globalization of the world, but clearly it's still there in terms of Vince McMahon's always.
Yeah, and I mean, even just looking at like Kairi Sane being paired up with Asuka, and not just being paired up, but putting Paige with them, is still like, you couldn't just let them be themselves, you know? Very strange.
They all band together, so
yeah.
They only interact with each other as well.
Let's go to Peter Piccinini's questions. We got, is one half of your tag team let me restart that one. Is one half of your favorite tag team also one half of your least favorite tag team? He brings up the idea that Beer Money is his favorite tag team, and since Bobby Roode's half of that, he also really just does not like the Bobby Roode and Chad Gable tag team, which, I agree. I don't know if I have like a least favorite tag team to kind of base off of that, but one thing that came to my mind was I'm a big fan of the New Day from the very beginning, and I never liked Kofi Kingston with Evan Bourne or CM Punk. But they're not like my least favorite tag team.
Yeah, I'm with you in that. I can name a lot of really great tag teams where the other person has gone on to do good things as singles, and then, like they pair Christian with Lance Storm. That's a bad example because I actually like the Un-Americans, but there's plenty of those. Well, this guy's a tag team guy, so let's just continuously stick them in tag teams. Like, I love the Brothers of Destruction, but Kane and, Rob Van Dam, or Kane and the Hurricane, just seem like odd pairings.
They've done stuff in the past, like you could look at the Rockers, and then the new Rockers of Monty Jannetty and Al Snow. Obviously, when he was Leif Cassidy. So, but I mean, my favourite tag team of all time is the Revival, and they've only ever teamed together, as far as I'm aware. So there's not too much of an issue in that regard. But I'd say, like, if you wanted to look at one of those ones, you could look at maybe the Hardy Boys, and then Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt.
Yeah, that's a good example.
A pretty bad tag team. But I think it's just a case of like certain guys. I don't think there's that many that have had like just really awful tag teams off the back of having a really good or memorable tag team. I think there are certain people just not so much are tag team wrestlers, but just fit into that mold very nicely and can kind of play off each other. Like you talk about someone like Christian. Christian went from Christian Edge is obviously his biggest one, but then he had really successful tag teams with Lance Storm and Test as the Un-Americans, and then with Chris Jericho as like a tag team for most of the early 2000s, and then Tyson Tonko as well was a good tag team pairing for him. But some people just work that way.
I was trying to think of something DX related, and it's like
You talk about like maybe like I don't know the New Magic Outlaws and then the Voodoo King Mafia, which is an instance of like two people that were in a great tag team stay together and form a really terrible tag team.
Or even like, the New Age Outlaws to Billy and Chuck.
Yeah, New Age Outlaws with X-Pac and somebody. Like, I wasn't watching when X Factor was around, but maybe that would have been the thing.
Oh, that was pretty bad.
But, yeah, there's possibility for something there.
I mean,
and when you incorporate the new the NWO into the mix, and you incorporate everybody that's been a part of that, then I'm sure that there's an answer that way.
Oh, you go from the New Age Outlaws to Road Dogg and K-Quick.
Yeah, I mean, if I was watching back then, I probably wouldn't have been into that either.
Get rowdy, Tony.
But to talk about Peter's example, let's not. Yes, Beer Money is a fantastic tag team, but let's not leave out American Alpha to Rude and Gable, which was just not good ever.
Or you go World's Greatest Tag Team to Benjamin and Gable as well.
Right.
So basically, Gable has just been.
Or World's Greatest Tag Team to Rico and Charlie Haas.
I liked Rico and Charlie Haas; they were great.
I did as well, but these are just bizarre pairings that
I know. That's the case of like them just throwing like you say, assigning this guy as a tag team guy and just throwing into the next person that possibly could. But yeah, it's an interesting topic to at least discuss. The case of like we would have like a Mount Rushmore of good and bad tag teams down the line.
I'll give you a great one, and then we can move on. I was so excited for Edge and Chris Jericho, and then we got Jericho.
I thought Jericho was good. I actually quite like them.
What about Show Miz?
Good pairing, but nothing that Edge and Jericho would have been.
Oh yeah, probably absolutely not. But like the Show Miz one is a bit more of like a disparity. It's like that just seems to just be. I mean, to be fair, the names are a lot better than some of the ones that you would have come up with nowadays.
Or, Air Boom, cool tag team, Kofi Kingston, Evan Bourne. Evan Bourne gets suspended for drugs. They give you R-Truth. Not great.
R-Boom. Yeah, see, I had the Air Boom on my negative with the New Day. Didn't like Kofi and Evan together. I thought it was a waste of both of them. Was Miz with anybody really bad? Because Miz and Morrison was great.
Miz Morrison was great. The Mizdow stuff.
I like Mizdow.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anyone that Miz was paired with that was pretty bad.
So I liked him with Alex Riley. I liked him with R-Truth. I liked him with Mizdow. Miz kind of made everything work that I can think of.
I mean, he was paired with Crystal for a while back in when he was the host of SmackDown.
Yeah, I don't know. That's something I might have to ponder about for another thing. Some kind of dream team thing or something. Which 205 Live superstar would you want called up to the main roster? I'd actually do the opposite. I think that Tyler Breeze and Chad Gable should go to 205 Live.
Fantastic picks. I also, when I thought about this question, thought Tyler Breeze on 205 Live would be good. But as far as guys I'd like to see get called up, I'd put two guys that were already there. Brian Kendrick and Mike Kanellis.
I definitely wouldn't put Mike Kanellis back just because it's still the case that he's not impressive. It's just they didn't use him before, so why would they use him this time? The only person that makes sense to me on 205 Live that hasn't already been called up to the main roster is Drew Gulak.
Gulak would have been my one and only choice, yeah.
And he should come up as a manager and part-time wrestler.
Much.
And part-time wrestler like Leo Rush kind of plays now with Bobby Lashley. and Drew Gulak would carry that. I'm not saying Leo Rush doesn't do a good job, but he would have a lot more reason Drew Gulak would than Leo Rush, because Leo Rush is just really, really good in the ring. Not that Drew...
Gulak would need a stable.
Yeah, I think he could lead a good one. Like, he'd be good as like the new manager of the Authors of Pain or something along those lines.
Let's go to, what is the stupidest tag team name that you've ever heard of? Man, there's so many that I'm sure I'm going to forget about. But the first one that came to my mind, just because it's fresh, is the Viking Experience.
Yeah, I think that's the bazinga that we're all waiting for here, is the Viking Experience. The Dicks. The Gemini.
I had Dude Busters.
I
hated that one.
Busters, though.
I've never liked things like Rybaxel. I didn't like Air Boom. American Males is stupid.
Yeah.
Great theme music, though.
Yeah. American Males.
The Boss and Hug connection is fucking stupid.
Yeah, that's really dumb.
Because
I did dislike that.
It's a playoff of an actual successful tag team, and then they just take it, and it doesn't even make sense. Like, what connects a Boss and a Hug? They don't even rhyme. It's sort of like Rock and Sock. Techno Team 2000.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
The Johnsons. The Ding Dongs. Wasn't there...
I never liked TM61.
Oh, that was an awful name. Yeah, it's just like a Pokemon move.
They never decided whether or not they wanted a hyphen on it. They would change back and forth. So it's either TM61 or TM-61. They never figured it out. So and I always hated Blake and Murphy, like where you don't even try. It's just your two last names. That's not a tag team name, but they would be like, oh, the tag team champions are Blake and Murphy.
Well, but then when they do try, a la the Brit Brawlers, they don't even do it.
They don't even say it anymore.
Brit Brawlers. Another one that comes to my mind, just because it was the stupidest thing. This is back when they first discovered Twitter, and like everything was about Twitter. Some fan said on Twitter, Sheamus and Randy Orton, they're the Celtic Vipers. And Michael Cole, for about a good month and a half, called them the Celtic Vipers. And it made me scream every time, because it's just so fucking stupid.
I don't even remember that, but I hate it.
I mentioned them before, just slightly early, but Voodoo Kin Mafia.
Yeah, that was bad.
Because the only reason they're called the Voodoo Kin Mafia is because of the initials VKM, Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Yeah, and I couldn't think of any other kind of words to go with it.
Yeah, and it was just a weird time. That was the time when Road Dogg and Billy Gunn were essentially trying to bait Triple H and Shawn Michaels to come to Impact Wrestling and have a one-off match between them, because they just reunited as the X.
Funny.
Yeah, but they're just like this. It reeked of desperation. Which it may have been funny or whatever, but it's just like, oh wow, we're calling out the big guys up north because obviously we're really small and insignificant, and we can only get some mainstream attention by talking about the WWE. It was very 2000 WCW. Got the Mechanics as well.
Yeah, it's a bad name.
Yeah, the Rival's much better, even though it's a bit weird how it all came about, but it makes a lot more sense.
What did Sawyer Fulton and Angelo Dawkins call themselves? They were Shoot Nation for a little bit, but then they had another name, and I can't think of that name.
I can't think the Shoot Nation is the only one that I can recall out of those two. It seems quite weird, that one as well. It's like, we're the shooters. Like, surely wrestling, the idea of wrestling is that you're meant to pretend that everyone is shooting.
Yeah.
Because it's a real match.
We're actually going to beat these people that are all fake fighting.
Yeah.
What?
Yep.
Do you think that WWE will do 3 horsewomen versus 3 horsewomen? I think we're all going to say no on this one, right?
Yeah.
If Rousey's not involved, the match doesn't happen.
No. And if Sasha Banks goes away, then that's
they'll find
another one.
The match happens without Sasha Banks.
Yeah, I think they would. I think they would find someone to replace Sasha Banks if they had to. It's wrong.
They'd call Trish Stratus to replace. You know what I mean? They would get that match to happen without Sasha. Ronda, it just doesn't happen without.
Yeah, Ronda's the linchpin.
Well, wasn't Lynch?
Ah.
Eh,
All right, we'll move on. With Becky's hold harmless agreement thing was brought up, did you all wait? When Becky's hold harmless agreement thing was brought up, you all joked that Daniel Bryan should have signed one. I don't remember us doing that, but that sounds like me. Who else would you like to return via a hold harmless agreement? He thinks up Corey Graves, but I can't think of anybody. I don't think anybody should. I think if you're that injured, you shouldn't be wrestling.
Well, I think it's more of a storyline type thing. Like you kind of go with the aspect of the fact that Becky Lynch wasn't actually injured. I know we made the joke about Daniel Bryan should have signed one and stuff like that because he eventually did come back. But if you go by the sense of like, just go for some sort of magical universe where as soon as they sign this hold harmless agreement, all their injuries are healed and they can actually wrestle and wrestle safely.
Oh, then Edge.
Yeah, Edge absolutely is the one that would come.
Yep, that's my pick too. Edge.
I mean, the only ones that come close in my mind are Paige and Nigel McGuinness.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But
not Paige though. Paige is she's already done.
Nigel for a one-off with Bryan, because I think that should have happened in a WWE ring. But Edge, if I could have 2 years with Edge, I'd be very happy.
That'd be really cool. And our final question here for this edition, who would you have the Shield's last match against? We just saw the Shield's final chapter thing, and wasn't the biggest fan of it. Rob, much more lenient on it. I don't think that there's a single trio out of the current people that would make any sense. The Undisputed Era have 4 people, so you can't really do that. And they don't have the main roster presence right now. Authors of Pain don't have a third one. Viking Raiders don't have a third one. The New Day are baby faces, and Big E is injured. So I can't think of anybody. I don't like this 3 random people pairing things.
So I'm gonna just jump into my box where I can choose anyone I want, and it would be fine. I would go with either the original Wyatt family or Evolution, and nobody else, because those matches the Shield had with those teams were magic, and they never even came close to replicating that magic with any other random pairing.
I'm trying to think. So I would go New Day, even if it was babyface versus babyface. I think they would just put on a better match. And obviously, I know Big E's injured currently, but let's live in a universe where he managed to stave off injury for this actual show. Or I would go for some sort of combination of either AJ Styles and the Good Brothers, or Finn Balor and the Good Brothers. Or if you're really trying to push the boat out, you go from some sort of collection of former Bullet Club, well, not leaders, but like stable mates in. Go AJ Styles, Finn Balor, and Adam Cole.
That'd be kind of cool.
I'd watch that match.
And then it's just like, even though these 3 guys are all thrown together, they've got a connection that they were all part of their own brotherhood, pretty much, as the Bullet Club. So you could create some sort of just 1 or 2 week story out of that reason why they're coming together, and then they have a great match with the Shield, and then that's the end of it.
You know, it'd be kind of cool if you could live in fantasy world type stuff. The Shield is the barrier between WWE and these outsiders called the NWO.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah,
or even if
Kevin Nash and Scott Hall and Hulk Hogan against those 3, like that. I mean, it wouldn't be the best technical match, but that'd be a bitchin' story.
And if they could have gotten Kenny and the Bucks,
then
yeah, that's the match that you want to have, but not Bobby Lashley, Baron Corbin, and Drew McIntyre. Fuck them.
No, especially since we just saw that at Fastlane. No.
Or Kurt Angle and Team Angle. What do you think about that match, Colin? Like Angle, Benjamin, Haas versus Rollins, Reigns, and Ambrose.
I mean, all in their prime and all being equal, it would be a great match.
Yeah, Time Machine.
What about the Radicals?
Oh my god.
The Radicals against them.
Absolutely. I would probably leave out Saturn to do the match. But yeah, I'd love that match.
Yeah, I'm blanking on anybody else. Trios are kind of a lot of bad trios that are no, not about that one.
X Factor.
Triple H and the Outlaws, like a 98 Triple H and the Outlaws. That wouldn't be too bad.
I'm trying to think of like a really terrible trio that would be just like a fun one to put in. Just do
3 and B.
I would prefer that to the Corbin. McIntyre would be involved still, so that.
Shield versus Team Bad.
Oh, what about Mexico's?
Oh my god.
There you go.
Yeah.
Book
they
it,
powerbomb
WrestleMania.
them
Yeah.
through the lawnmowers.
Alrighty, everybody, that's going to do us in for this edition. Let's just round things up with the plug side of things. Obviously, thank you all for sending your questions in, and if you want to be part of anything else going on in the future, what you should be aware of is if you subscribe on the YouTube channel and you ring the bell for notifications, you'll be then alerted of when new videos get up. And the next thing that's probably going to be, other than the hot tags, something related to Money in the Bank, but I haven't quite figured that out yet, so, we'll see when it comes to that. We've also got places that you can listen to us just on the audio streams, which is anything from Spotify and Google Play and Stitcher and iTunes and Anchor and so on and so forth. So if you do that, then leave us a rating or a like or a follow or anything else that you do on those platforms. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Smark Out Moment. Check out the Redbubble and TeePublic shops to pick up any kind of merchandise that you might be interested in. Head up to Patreon if you got a little spare change you want to toss our way. Follow the stuff on the website. Obviously, it's smarkoutmoment.com, and there are plenty of other things that are happening on there outside of the podcasts. I've got my Fanboys Anonymous site for any of the geek culture stuff that I feel like talking about, and obviously a YouTube channel and a Patreon and all the things that go along with that. And I've got stuff cooking on eWrestling News and Bleacher Report that you will see here and there, and that's about it that I need to talk about. Callum?
Follow me on Twitter at Weekmeister14. Check out the Power Rankings and Women's Wrestling Weekly this week and every other week, even when I'm not writing them, but I am writing them this week. So stay tuned for all those ones. 2001, A Wrestling Odyssey will continue sometime next, like either the weekend or next week, early next week. The video will be sent out because we're recording on Friday. So, and on this one, obviously get the hot tags, or reheated tags as they are, and a review of Backlash 2001. So be sure to check that out when it's released. Rob?
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DudeFelice. Check out all the great weeklies, as Callum said, including this week's Triple Threat, which does dive into the question from 3 other people on the Smark Out Moment team of who would you like to see the Shield face in their final match. Now, also associated with the WrestleZone Daily, and we're doing a wonderfully funny thing called the Yummy in the Bank ladder match, which will take place the weekend of the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, where 6 or 8 fast food mascots will all compete in a ladder match, along with the Coca-Cola Bear versus a Whiskey Bear, because why the fuck not? Time Killer Apparel is my clothing brand, and I have a bunch of stuff on eWrestling News, The Ring Report, and all those good sites. So just click around and you'll see everything we got.
Alrighty, everybody, that's going to be it for us for April 2019 and the Mailbag and this edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. Thank you all for listening to this and all your support and your likes and your follows and your favorites and comments and everything else like that. We will see you next time, everybody. This has been another Smark Out Moment, and we're being counted out.